And I hope that you'll forgive Bub today. He has a little case of the zoomies. He's been zipping around all day. Or at least all morning. Listen, there is no way I'm getting this thing uploaded before 11 a.m., but that's okay. It's still getting uploaded. We're still doing the High Notes video. We're still doing all that good stuff. So I hope you'll join me on High Notes after the reading for the card of the day. And I think I'm going to be pulling from the Angels and Ancestors deck today. Speaking of decks, that's exactly what I've got. I've got Tarot of the Divine. I've got Angels and Ancestors. I've got Spirit Animal, Viking Oracle, and Runes of the Gods today. So, hope you'll stick around for that. It is Friday, and of course you know what that means. This is Full Scale Friday. This is what a private reading will look like. And in order to secure one, all you have to do is go to my link tree in the description down below. You can throw me something off the Drive-Thru RPG wish list or the Amazon wish list, it doesn't matter. And you will get 2 private readings and a birthday reading. And if you throw me a deck of cards, guess what? I'm using that deck of cards in your reading. So, with all that self-promotion out of the way, let's start laying down some cards, which I've already started doing, and we'll get this reading underway for your weekend. That way you can get your weekend started. Mine's already begun. Today I have off. That's why you're seeing jeans rather than the usual gray scrub pants that I usually wear. And yeah, I do these before I go to work, so I have to wake up kind of early for that. Don't mind it though, because these are a lot of fun for me. There we go. Okay, so alright, got about 3 of these. And while I'm laying these down, also on my link tree is all the places I hang out. And I would love for you to hang out with me. If I don't respond right away, it's usually because I'm in the middle of something, whether it's cleaning this place up, or work, or doing some other tasks or whatever. That's how it's done. But whenever I can get to you, I will. And we'll chat. We'll see what's going on with you. And here's the thing, we don't have to talk tarot. We can talk just about anything. Tabletop role-playing games, Swiss Army knives, tea, vape, whatever, tea and vape or death, whatever you like to talk about. I like shooting the breeze just as much as anyone else, and sometimes I would rather get away from shop talk and just talk movies or TV or something like that. Relax, unwind. It is your weekend. Let's find out how that weekend's looking and what you need to know for it. Okay, so let's see. Starting off with Ragnarok. And that is, of course, applying directly to you. Because you've got to end some things. And we talked yesterday about ending, our frustration or the outward expression of it and turning it into something else. Making a more playful approach. So far, I don't see that. I don't see that going away. Let me tell you something about endings. Ending that bad diet, ending that self-destructive behavior. It gives way to a beginning of something else. And once you've begun that something else, you know, things start to take shape pretty quickly. And they can. So anyway, let's see what's guiding you this weekend. None other than the Norns themselves. So, we also talked yesterday about fated life versus destiny. Now, fate, as I understand it, fate is something you really can't control all that well. Destiny, however, is much different. Actually, let me put this this way. Destiny is something you were meant to do. Now, you can do it or not. Fate, plenty of things that are fated, but our will and our energy can alter them. Now, this is where fate and destiny collide, because we all receive gifts from the divine at birth, which we can either develop or ignore, but you have to put your focus and energy toward that task. I think a while back we talked about I think it was with the new moon reading I did, or shortly after that, where we were in a state where there was something we really wanted to do. Something you really wanted to do. But you have to put the effort, the focus, and the attention into it in order to develop it. And it will develop slowly over time. It will become, the thing that you want it to become eventually. And even if the outcome of it is different than what you initially imagined, what takes shape is something very beautiful. And you might not get exactly what you want, but you will get everything you need out of it. And you can always go back. You can always remember that first thing you did that was a stepping stone. And then you just keep going. Keep going towards something greater. But you do have to end the thought that it's just going to happen. It's not going to happen without your attention and focus. And so your spirit animal for today is an armadillo spirit. You definitely need to set some healthy boundaries. Now, let me tell you a little bit of a story. And I don't remember who said this, but I do remember someone had once said, if you want to become better at something, or you want to become good at something, or you just want to start to do something, you're going to have to learn everything you can about it. Now, that doesn't mean doing it all at once. For example, the person who reads only 1 hour a day on any given subject consistently will eventually end up mastering that one thing. And remember, we talked, I think, earlier in the week about doing just one thing and one thing well. Drawing upon those who came before you. Getting, bending a few ears and figuring out exactly where it is you need to be. Jim Quick's book, Limitless, talked about if you're going to do it for an hour a day, well, that's fine. Read for about 25 minutes, take a little 5-minute break, come back for another 25, take a 5-minute break, repeat this process until you've completed a full hour, and then put the book away. Put the stuff away. You'll be able to retain it much better if you do it in those little bitty chunks. And this is from a man who had suffered brain damage and had a severe learning disability. But he's taught himself and others how to be superheroic with their minds. So, let's go to the tarot and find out what's going on. So we got a 6 of Swords is where we're starting in the mind. We have Temperance. And we have an Ace of Cups. from the Greek legend of Perseus. We have Perseus and his mother heading on to much better pastures, right? And normally the Six of Swords is something a little, it can be a very depressing scene. However, what you're leaving behind with whatever it is, beginning this new project of yours, it's going to be great, but you have to make the decision to move forward. The journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. You don't have to take all, 1,555,672 steps. I don't know if that's how many steps it really takes. But that's the first step, getting that one out of the way. And you just take the next one, 1 foot forward until you've reached it. And then we have Temperance. Kind of pointing at that armadillo spirit again. Setting those healthy boundaries. Remember, Perseus was destined to be great by Zeus. But he had to have some boundaries. He had to have a childhood. He had to be allowed to kind of develop on his own a little bit, naturally with the guidance of his mother. And then he went on to save Greece by doing what most would deem impossible, which is taking Medusa's head and then, of course, using it to freeze the Kraken in place before it could destroy an entire city-state, or Andromeda as its sacrifice. But those were the boundaries that were set. He wasn't allowed to do that until he became an adult, right? He was still a very young adult, but an adult nonetheless. There are certain things that we cannot do until we're adults, until we've reached that fully developed level of maturity. We can handle those things. And so this, from what I'm seeing, is your maturity phase. You're going to have to go through that in order to get where you need to be. And that causes a lot of new emotions. But this is what causes your cup to run over. The development phase can be enjoyable if you allow it to be. Always learning that something new and you're kind of wondering, what will I learn tomorrow? If I just dedicate this little bit of time to it, what else will I learn? What else will come of this kind of endeavor? And that can cause a lot of excitement rather than dread. You can look at a new task and go, oh boy, I gotta learn about this thing now, Or you can go, oh boy, here's another skill to put in my pocket. Personally, I kind of prefer the latter over the former. Alright, so moving on to the physical, we have the Five of Cups. We have a Five of Swords. We have a Nine of Wands. Let's just go with these two fives kind of collectively. Actually, you know what? I'll go through the entire transition here just to show you what's going on. So, moving on from your new journey, setting some healthy boundaries here, making sure that your needs are taken care of too, because what you give away you have to give back to yourself. And finding that level of excitement and that emotional fulfillment. First you have to deal with this Five of Cups. That is regret without having learned anything. Are we understanding? You are going to mess things up. You're going to get things wrong. That's how this works. That's how you learn. This is not, you're going to get it perfect from the word go. And the fact is, you move from this into this this Five of Swords here. Now, Five of Swords represents deceit. Someone won over you through deceit. I'm definitely seeing past issues here. Past issues are coming back to haunt you. Some trust issues even. But you got to move through those. Because the Nine of Wands, those nines are actually really great cards because they do represent sort of like a completion. But in this case, you're wary, you're cautious, but primarily you're hopeful. And that's exactly what this means. Now, you're going to be tired, and I know right now you may be feeling tired. You may be feeling a little fatigued. But you have to gather your strength and your resilience. You have to lick those wounds, bind them, do whatever you got to do, stitch them up. And you're going to have to do one thing: persist. Persistence is going to be everything. Right now, I can tell you I came across a tweet the other day, and I cannot remember exactly who posted it. But if I do remember, I'll give them credit later. And what it said was, the first time, when someone shows you the first miniature they've ever painted, no matter what it looks like, good job. Good job. Keep going. You encourage them. You don't go, it looks like shit. Why don't you tell them that? Because if you tell them that one looks like shit, that's exactly where these two cards come into play. They never move to the Nine of Wands. You're completely destroying everything that they've set out to do. They're not seeking your actual approval. They just want to know that they're on the right path. So, to add to that, I would say the first time you ever see someone, like right now I can tell you in the Basic Experts Gilded server, people are showing off works in progress left and right. There's always encouragement there. There's always some kind of constructive suggestion. Hey, add that thing over here in that map. See how that works out. See if you like it. You think you could put a tower right there? Hey, this is pretty good, but let me show you something. You kind of mentioned this word twice, which is not really needed. Maybe revise this statement to read such. It'll move a lot cleaner. And don't you know it? We're all feeding off that. Those people that are actively creating right now are actively feeding off that, and they're making great progress. They're making great strides. It's not like Reddit where you post your first thing and then suddenly you got 1,000 people telling you what you did wrong and expecting you to know everything. See what I'm saying? There's the difference. By the way, been there. So, you're going to have to move past this Five of Cups. You're going to have to move past the Five of Swords. Those feelings of loss, you have to learn something from them. And then move into that Nine of Wands. Keep going. Alright, so in the Spirit we have a Ten of Swords. We also have a Three of Swords, and we have a Queen of Wands. So my question is, what army did you piss off, Rasputin? Because your Ten of Swords looks like you're probably trying to overcorrect a little bit here. Trying to triumph over that evil in your life. And in doing so, you've launched everything you have at it. And it's a Pyrrhic victory because it's actually leaving you heartbroken. And we're pointing at those senses of loss again here in the physical. These are not really helping you right now. But what will be that Queen of Wands. Because the Queen of Wands comes from the Hawaiian deity Pele. And this is a fiery force. This is what you have to get back to. You have to get away from that which is killing you. Because right now your optimism and independence are on the line. You need to have that confidence and passion and that verve, that willingness to just keep going. And if you look all down this line here, this line for the outcome, it represents emotional fulfillment. It represents the, that cautious optimism. But then there's that fiery force. 2 out of the 3 of these cards are fulfillment in droves, and that's what you want. If you look here, this entire row, this transitional row from here to here, actually points right at that armadillo spirit, and it's a cautionary tale. If you do not watch out, you can hurt yourself, and if you don't enact temperance, if you don't put those healthy boundaries up, yes, you will end up betraying yourself. You'll end up killing yourself, and there will be nothing that comes of it. But starting out right here, even though you're moving on, you want to throw everything you can into it, but there are things that you still haven't learned from the past. That is what is leading to these moments where you're killing yourself. Don't do that. Let go of that need to just completely throw everything, including the kitchen sink, at it. That's what needs to end with Ragnarok. Because the Norns are showing us a couple of different possibilities. And that possibility is you can continue to just kill yourself and you're going to be miserable, or you can accept the lessons that come from it and then have a better outcome. That choice is up to you. Let's check out our angels and ancestors and find out what's going on. So, here we are. We start with the trader. Now, the trader, the merchant here, he wants to trade you goods, and he would like a fair and equitable exchange. And what that means is he makes certain goods. He's put his time and his energy and everything else into it, and he sets a price that he thinks is fair. You and he discuss that price and come to something mutually beneficial. He's willing to compromise a little bit. Maybe you should too. Sometimes those prices are set, and they're set for a good reason. If someone's trying to sell me a wallet for, say, $65, I got to take into consideration the amount of time and effort, materials, and everything they put into it. Their time is as valuable as anything. Time is an asset they cannot get back. And that's what you're looking at. Your time is a very valuable and precious asset. You cannot get that back. So you have to determine what is a fair exchange for your time. You ever wonder why I kind of offer the things I do? Like how I came to the conclusion that like anything $35 and under will get you 2 readings and a birthday reading is because I looked around and I see what like some of these places who do brick and mortar, you sit down with a person across from you and they do a tarot reading. They're just using tarot cards. They're charging you for 1 hour and they're charging you $35. Me, I'm sitting here with you and I'm willing to give you same price, but I'm willing to give you a video you can kind of go back to. Not only that, I'm willing to do it twice, and then I'm willing to do a third one on your birthday. Because I think that's fair. I think it's a fair exchange for my time. And if you go anything over that, well then we are going to discuss. We're going to discuss how many readings you get. You're still going to get that birthday reading. And that kind of thing. That's what it's all about. That's what capitalism is, ladies and gentlemen. At its very core is allowing the person who produces the goods to set a price and then make things mutually beneficial. See what I'm saying? It's all about energy and energy exchange. That's why you have to set those healthy boundaries. That's why you have to set that price. Because if you poured a lot of your time into it, you expect to be paid for your time. Moving into the physical. So we got a white witch, which says, be the light. Now what exactly does that mean? There is a certain way to be cautious. There is cautious optimism, and it's perfectly fine. It's fine to be cautious. It's important to not be overcautious. If you're overcautious, you can cause a lot more damage. You will not be able to progress, you won't be able to move because you're too afraid of something that's there. Right? You're afraid of getting hurt. You're afraid of losing again. Has anyone ever seen Good Will Hunting? Well, I think it was pretty evident who the light was in that equation. It was obviously this girl, right? They came from two disparate backgrounds and she actually loved him. It costs absolutely nothing to be that little bit generous with your time. Absolutely nothing. If you can stop and help someone else out, lend an ear, do whatever, you may find the answers to these two cards right here, that Five of Cups and Five of Swords. Do you know what the difference is between just being scared and being absolutely terrified? It's okay to be scared. Fear is a good thing when you use it. When you use it properly, when it heightens your senses, when it lets you know where danger is so that you can either avoid it or confront it and defeat it. But it becomes a terrible thing when it rules over your life. Believe it or not, there are those of us out there right now, in their own little way or another, defying fear. And I'm asking all of you to take a moment, if you're living in fear of anything and you see someone who's not, and it angers you, ask yourself why. Why is it like so important that those people absolutely give in to their fear when you're incapable of doing so yourself? Why? That's something to remember. That's what being the light's all about. Not living in fear constantly. Alright, finally, we do have a high priest. This is going back to your overall here, the project itself. Intend and create. So what does that mean? Well, if you intend to create something, let's say if you want to weave a little tapestry here, what is your intention behind it? Is it just to create something beautiful? If so, that's fine. Is it to convey information? If so, that's fine. Keep the intention in mind when you create that new thing. Even if it's just creating a meme. You know, are you looking to make someone laugh? Or is it your intention to make someone think? Hold on to that. Keep that intention in mind today, because it's important. Finally, we're going to the runes, and we've got Rider-Waite, we've got Kanaz, and we've got Iwaz. Look, I'm going to tell you, I'm not going to lie to you, I'm not going to blow vapor up your butt here, but The reason I chose the decks today, I'm going to go back to this High Priest for just a minute. The reason I chose the decks today was the same reason I'm creating the Greyhorn RPG. Because I want to preserve our folklore. That's it. I want people to reconnect with their folklore. I mean, look at the diversity of folklore you see here before you. We have everything from, we have a Mexican tale here, which I actually read about this, La Llorona. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly. By the way, John, if you're watching, help me out. My Spanish is terrible. And I grew up close to Texas, if that tells you anything. So, La Llorona. I read about her in a book called Ghost Stories of Old Texas. That was where I first heard about her. And then these many years later, they made a movie out of it. We also have from Egypt the story of Osiris and Set. At least I think that's Osiris and Set. Let me just do a real quick check. Yes, Osiris and Set. Set betrayed his brother Osiris, and his wife is left inconsolable. We have the Greek legend of Perseus. We have the Russian legend of Baba Yaga. We have the Hawaiian legend of Pele. You get it, right? Even Japanese, so on and so forth. We need to reconnect to this. We need to reconnect to our ancestry. Our ancestry had some very, very beautiful customs and traditions, things that you and I can go back to and lean on and see that they were solid. Did they do everything perfectly? No. But one of the best things is they got you here. So maybe take a little time to get acquainted with that. That's why I chose the decks I chose. Tarot of the Divine is about folklore and legend. Angels and Ancestors, self-explanatory. And then everything else connects back to some old ways and traditions themselves. What can we mimic in nature with the spirit animal deck? Where's your clarity? Did something become very clear in your mind? Because that's what Rider-Waite represents. On top of a physical journey, which I'll be taking today to get some groceries. But on your journey, in your travels today, keep an eye out, because something will become very, very clear to you. From there, look at what we're pointing at the White Witch again, with Kanaz, the torch, the beacon, light, enlightenment, fulfillment. Here it is. You're going to have that little Dagoz moment. I know Dagoz did not appear in this, but it's going to be like, and you'll be like, whoa, hey, didn't realize that. But in order to grow, you will have to be flexible. You'll have to prove yourself trustworthy. That's what Iwaz is. It's the yew tree. The yew tree was what was used to make bows for arrows because it was super flexible. By the way, just as a side note, if you're going to be working with yew wood for its flexibility, you might want to do it outside. There are some, well, let's just say there's some pretty, noxious chemicals involved. And that's naturally produced from the tree itself. Yeah, you don't want to do it inside. If you have to do it inside, do it where it's well ventilated. So, also, everything from this reading is pointing toward your ultimate fulfillment, what you want most. But it's telling you right now, everything you want is on the other side of your fear. And if your fear is just tedious little things, time to get over it. Time to lose your fear. Because fear is not serving you. Understand? Kind of getting it? Alright, so, time for me to get out of here. I've gone on long enough. I'm not going to make a post-credit scene today. That just result in me rambling. That's it. But anyway, thank you so much for joining me. I love you all. Take care of yourselves and each other. Always do what lights you up. Get on the other side of your fear. Shed the darkness of the past. Ensure a brighter future. And as always, shine on. Alright, I lied. I said I wasn't going to do a post-credit scene, but more stuff keeps popping up as I look at this. You know, thing about fear. I think Hunter Thompson wrote about it in his book Kingdom of Fear, which I do recommend. I recommend everybody read that book. You're going to need it. Let me tell you, if I let my fear of whether or not I was any goddamn good at this stop me, I wouldn't be doing a reading for you right now. In fact, I would be doing everything to not do them. I sat on my initial few decks of cards for how long? 6 months? Yeah, 6 months after I bought them. All I would do is take them down, flip through them, and be like, oh, those are pretty. Put them back. After a while, I was like, you know what? You're going to have to get into this sometime. You're going to have to do it. And I did it. As many of you know, it was my bro Brian Scarborough from the Fixed Air Moon channel, who really got behind me. He just would not let go. So definitely a guy who was the light for me, right? Encouraged me to go toward it, and I did it. You know what? I still get people who tell me I'm doing everything wrong just by doing this, and that's fine. Their fear, their problem. Let me tell you how destructive fear can be. The wrong kind of fear. Certain kinds of fear result in sort of states of being. I was reading one of Diana Paxton's books about a soldier who was deployed, who experienced a state himself after he called upon Odin to protect him in battle, and then suddenly a skirmish broke out, and he experienced it firsthand for himself. He was on alert, but he was able to think very quickly, think on his feet. He was able to protect himself and a few of his fellow soldiers next to him. That kind of fear is productive. But if you find yourself paralyzed to the point where your response is either complete paralysis or hostility, that's destructive. That's not going to help you. Especially if you're trying to go after someone else for something they do that has nothing to do with you. In fact, if anything, My response to destructive criticism is to just keep going. Keep doing it. Because I've run into this kind of thing before, ladies and gentlemen. Everything in my childhood that was designed to get me to stop doing what I was doing succeeded for a little while. But then I picked it back up. Because I realized something. Their fear, their problem. Want an example of destructive fear? Look at what happened in Salem Village way back in our nation's early history. That's destructive fear to the point of hysteria. We have some hysteria here today. I believe what you want, but let me put it to you this way. You can't live in a perpetual state of fear. And as a matter of fact, I'll share something with you. Right there. I recommend this. Here's why. Let's see here, part 1. And this is in When the Going Gets Weird, the Weird Turn Pro. So let's see. Yes. Here it is. It's in a chapter called There Is No Such Thing as Paranoia. So he's sitting with his dad and he's listening to the radio, and it said here, I understand that fear is my friend, but not always. Never turn your back on fear. It should always be in front of you, like a thing that might have to be killed. My father taught me that, along with a few other things that have kept my life interesting. When I think of him, now I think of fast horses and lying FBI agents. There is no such thing as paranoia, he once told me. Even your worst fears will come true if you chase them long enough. Beware, son. There is trouble lurking out there in that darkness, sure as hell. Wild beasts and cruel people, and some of them will pounce on your neck and try to tear your head off if you're not careful. It was a mean piece of wisdom to lay on a 10-year-old boy, but in retrospect, I think it was the right thing to say, and it definitely turned out to be true. I have wandered into that darkness many times in my life, and for many strange reasons that I still have trouble explaining, and I could tell you a whole butcher shop full of stories about the horrible and savage beasts that lurk out there, most of them beyond the wildest imaginations of a 10-year-old boy, or even 20 or 30-year-old boy, for that matter, or even being beyond the imagination of a teenage girl from Denver, being dragged away from her family by a pack of diseased wolves. Nothing compares to it. The terror of a moment that rolls over you like a rush of hot scum in a sewer pipe. And I especially liked the one thing that he said. I understand that fear is my friend, but not always. Never turn your back on fear. It should always be in front of you, like a thing that might have to be killed. That, and there is no such thing as paranoia. Even your worst fears will come true if you chase them long enough. Those are the two key takeaways. And in this book, you see the pages that will tell you exactly why. and will tell you exactly why this reading was so important today. I know I've droned on long enough and I've got to get going, so I don't know. This message really needed to get out to you. And it needed to get out to you because I love you and I care. Take care this weekend. And remember, keep fear in front of you. Never turn your back to it. Keep being the light because it may matter. To you, you might just be a little bit of light in the world. But to someone else, you may be a world full of it. Light, that is. You know what I'm going to say. Close this out. So just do it. Shine on.